The wind moves gently through the trees, brushing against the leaves like whispers from a time long gone. A single figure crouches low beneath a canopy of pine, the crackle of a small fire breaking the silence. There's no tent, no flashlight, no phone, just the rhythm of nature and the rising instinct to survive. It's easy to feel lost here, with shadows stretching long and birds calling from places unseen. But centuries ago, this same forest was home, not a challenge to overcome, but a partner to live with. The Apache Indians roamed these lands barefoot and alert, reading signs in every broken twig and subtle breeze. They didn't just endure the wilderness, they thrived in it. How did they do it? How did they know what to eat, where to sleep, or how to find water in a place with no roads and no instructions? That's what we're here to uncover. To understand how the Apache mastered survival, we need to first understand who they were. The Apache people are a group of culturally related Native American tribes who originally lived across a vast stretch of what is now the American Southwest. Arizona, New Mexico, parts of Texas, and into northern Mexico. Their world was made of rugged deserts, high mountain forests, and deep canyons. Not exactly forgiving terrain. And yet, the Apache didn't just survive in these tough environments. They adapted with astonishing precision. They were semi-nomadic, always on the move, following the seasons, game, and natural resources. This constant mobility made them skilled trackers, scouts, and weather readers. Unlike many modern people who fear the unknown parts of nature, the Apache learned to read it like a book, written in wind and stone. They lived in extended family groups and relied heavily on oral tradition. Wisdom wasn't locked in books. It was shared through stories, dances, and daily life. Survival wasn't taught as a dramatic skill. It was simply part of being. Even during periods of great pressure, especially during US westward expansion and military conflict, the Apache remained elusive and difficult to capture. That wasn't luck. It was deep environmental awareness and an ability to move, hide, and survive in places most wouldn't dare enter. Before we explore their specific techniques, it's worth keeping this in mind. Their survival wasn't just about skill. It was about relationship. The land wasn't an enemy to be conquered. It was a teacher. If the forest was their teacher, shelter was one of the first lessons. The Apache didn't build permanent homes with stone or brick. They crafted what they needed from what surrounded them, with minimal impact on the environment. Their primary structure was the wickiup, a simple dome-shaped shelter made from flexible branches like willow or saplings, covered with grass, bark, or leaves, depending on the region and season. A wickiup wasn't much to look at, modest, quiet, and temporary, but it was perfectly suited for Apache life. It could be assembled quickly, taken down easily, and left behind without scarring the land. More importantly, it provided warmth, shade, and protection using nothing artificial. The Apache understood how to read the forest for the best location. Somewhere shielded from strong winds, near water but not too close, and with enough elevation to avoid flooding. They didn't just build structures, they blended into the forest. From a short distance, a wickiup could almost disappear into the trees. That was the point. Shelter wasn't about fortification. It was about fitting in with the rhythms of nature. While modern survivalists often look for convenience, the Apache built homes that listened to the land before asking anything from it. Once sheltered, the next challenge in any forest is warmth. And for the Apache, fire was more than heat. It was life, protection, and connection. But without matches or lighters, they had to rely on patience, skill, and friction. The bow drill was a common tool, simple in construction, demanding in practice. A curved piece of wood, a spindle, a fireboard, and a lot of steady motion. Sparks didn't fly easily. Smoke came first, then, if done right, a glowing ember, cradled in dry tinder like a newborn. The process required more than muscle. It demanded rhythm, attention, and a calm mind. Some Apache stories even treated fire starting as a kind of ritual, not just lighting a flame, but awakening a spirit. Once the fire was alive, it offered more than warmth. It cooked food, purified water, signaled allies, and kept wild animals at bay. It was also deeply communal. Families would gather around it, not only to survive the night, but to share stories, heal wounds, and pass down lessons. In today's world, where a single click brings fire to life, it's easy to forget how much knowledge is buried in that spark. For the Apache, fire wasn't just a tool, it was a sacred responsibility. You can go days without food, but only a short time without water. In the forest or the desert, water isn't always obvious. For the Apache, locating it was second nature. They didn't rely on luck. They read the land like a living map. They followed animal trails, knowing deer and birds often led to hidden springs. They watched for certain plants. Cottonwoods and willows meant moisture was nearby. Even the buzz of insects could be a clue. Where others might see dry earth, the Apache saw potential. Sometimes they dug shallow wells where water hid just beneath the surface. In emergencies, they even tapped cacti or wrung moisture from plant roots. Purification was another layer of wisdom. The Apache used charcoal, sand, and certain stones to clean water naturally. Sometimes it was boiled using heated rocks dropped into bark containers. No plastic, no filters, just ingenuity and close observation. Today, people tote hydration packs and water bottles. The Apache carried something less visible, but more valuable, instinct sharpened by generations. In their world, thirst didn't just test your body, it tested your attention. And the land, when listened to carefully enough, always answered. Once you've found water, the next challenge is keeping your body fueled. And for the Apache, the forest was less a mystery and more a well-stocked pantry. Their knowledge of edible plants, hunting and food preparation wasn't just practical. It was encyclopedic, and it had to be. A single mistake, eating the wrong berry or undercooking meat, could mean illness or worse. They hunted small game like rabbits, squirrels, and birds, using bows, snares, and throwing sticks. Larger game, like deer or elk, required coordination and stealth. Sometimes entire groups worked together, blending into the terrain, waiting patiently for the right moment. But they didn't waste. Every part of the animal was used. Meat, hide, bone, sinew, each with its own purpose. Foraging was equally crucial. The Apache could identify edible roots, seeds, nuts, and fruits by season and region. Mesquite beans, wild onions, juniper berries. Foods modern foragers might walk past without a second glance were everyday staples. Some plants were dried and stored, others ground into paste or flour. Fire roasted, sun-dried, carefully smoked. Food wasn't simply about survival. It was seasonal, ceremonial, and shared. Meals connected families and anchored community life. Even today, many indigenous families continue to honor these food traditions, blending ancient techniques with modern practices. So while today's survivalist might carry energy bars and protein packs, the Apache carried something far more powerful: knowledge layered through experience. To them, the forest didn't just contain food. It offered it generously if you knew how to look. For the Apache, survival didn't just mean knowing what to eat or how to build a shelter. It meant knowing how to move, see, and disappear. Their relationship with the land went far beyond tools and resources. They understood its rhythms, its sounds, and its silences. They moved like shadows, quiet, deliberate, and often undetected. Tracking was one of their most refined skills. They could read footprints, broken branches, disturbed grass, even the flight pattern of birds. A bent blade of grass, or the faintest change in scent, might mean an animal or an enemy had passed by hours earlier. It was less about seeing and more about noticing. But it wasn't just about hunting or defense. This kind of awareness was a lifestyle. Children were taught early to listen to the wind, observe the way water flowed, and recognize when the forest felt different. Their senses weren't dulled by distraction. They were sharpened daily. They walked softly, not just to remain hidden, but out of respect for the land beneath them. There's a quiet philosophy there. When you move gently through the world, you notice more, and you leave less behind. What truly set the Apache apart wasn't just their knowledge of the land, it was how they related to it. For them, survival was never just a technical challenge, it was spiritual. The forest wasn't something to conquer or escape. It was a living presence, something sacred, something you had to listen to as much as navigate. Every skill they practiced, tracking, fire building, foraging, was layered with meaning. A successful hunt might be followed by a quiet offering of thanks. A shelter was not just a structure, but a temporary partnership with the earth. Even water was approached with gratitude, not entitlement. The Apache saw the land not as a backdrop, but as a teacher and a relative. This perspective shaped their resilience. When you see nature as part of your extended family, you move through it with care, and you're less likely to panic when things go wrong. You're grounded, mentally and emotionally. This mindset can feel distant in our modern, convenience-driven world, but it's perhaps the most powerful survival tool of all. Respect. Not just for the forest, but for the knowledge that came before. Because to the Apache, survival wasn't about fear. It was about belonging. In a world of survival manuals and YouTube tutorials, it's tempting to think knowledge is just a click away. But the Apache remind us that survival isn't about gear. It's about awareness. It's about learning to see what's already there, to listen deeply, and to move with intention. We can take that mindset with us, even in small ways. Next time you're in a park or forest, pause. Listen for what you usually miss. The soft crunch of leaves, the rhythm of wind, the birds warning of your presence. Notice the way the ground changes, how light filters through branches. That's how it begins. We might never need to live off the land the way the Apache once did, but the skills they passed down, observation, patience, humility, still matter. Because in a world that often feels too fast and too loud, learning to slow down and pay attention might just be the most human survival skill of all. Even now, if you walk deep enough into the woods and stop long enough to listen, you'll hear it. That quiet language of leaves, wind, and memory. The forest still speaks, just as it did to the Apache centuries ago. The lessons are there, tucked into the bend of a branch or the hush of a stream, waiting for anyone patient enough to learn. We may carry flashlights instead of torches, trail mix instead of mesquite beans, but some truths don't change. Nature still teaches, and if we're willing, like the Apache, we can still remember how to belong.